I'm excited to introduce you to tonight's expert. We have Loopy Nichols-Reyes. Welcome, Loopy.
Thank you.
We're so glad that you're here. She's a lactation specialist at Jackson North, and she's a registered nurse, and she earned her bachelor's degree from Nova Southeastern in 2019. And her initial nursing experience was in postpartum and newborn nursery. And seeing the need for more education to help her clients meet their breastfeeding goals, Loopy began pursuing an advanced certification as an international board certified lactation consultant. So she has worked in this role as a lactation consultant for over 10 years in the hospital setting, and her personal experience with breastfeeding is the reason behind her passion. So she loves to educate moms, to support them in this, to get them off on the best start as possible, because that's the thing about breastfeeding. We're going to talk more about it, but man, it can be really hard at the start, and then you can think, this is too hard, it doesn't work, I quit, but she wants everyone to have a good, strong start. So she's here to help them navigate their feeding and lactation issues and challenges. And during the journey to obtain the baby friendly designation in 2017, Loopy was a critical part of the lactation team at the Women's Pavilion at Jackson North. Thank you for that, and bravo. She was providing staff in services, parent education, maternity tours, breastfeeding classes. So her passion for educating mothers and infants in the art of breastfeeding is what brought her back from retirement, where she continues to support mothers and staff in the skills necessary to successfully breastfeed. So you really not only bring the expertise, but what I love, Loopy, already, we haven't even begun our conversation, but what I really love is I know you bring the heart and the passion to really equip mamas. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We're so excited. So I want to tell our audience too, if at any point you have a question specific for Loopy, you can drop that in that chat feature right at the bottom of your screen, and I will do my best to address all those questions and get them in front of Loopy. But we've got a lot of great questions tonight that we're going to share with her. So let's get started. And my first question, Loopy, would be, how can we initiate breastfeeding in the hospital? Because I know it's kind of good to try it and get a start while we have all those resources there in front of us. So tell us, how can we initiate breastfeeding in the hospital?
Yes, we are very proud here in Jackson. We assist mothers with a baby, the first feed at breast, at skin to skin, at delivery within the first hour of life. So at the baby's place, mommy's okay, baby's okay, the baby's placed on the mother's skin. That way the baby can smell the skin and does the little natural crawl to the breast. It's something beautiful to see, and baby is able to feed, and the hormone starts producing the milk right away.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, it really is remarkable to see those sweet little babies are just born with knowing what to do. And then us mamas, on the other hand, are a little bit like, what are we doing? Which is why you and other lactation consultants are so important, because I think sometimes the misconception can be, I'm just supposed to know how to do this, and it's supposed to be so natural and so easy. And I breastfed for my 4 babies, and I had the hardest time with my 4th. And I think I bought into the thought of like, oh, I've done this before. It's no problem. It's so easy. But I sought out actually to have a lactation consultant come to my home with my 4th baby, because I was on the brink of like, I quit. This is too hard. I can't do this. So again, just the importance of seeking help and not being, scared to seek help or thinking I should know how to do this, because like you said, there's support there. So
every baby is unique.
Exactly. And that was my next question. Let's talk about latching. And what if, your baby is having trouble latching? What should we do?
Yes. One of the most important things is teaching mother how to attain a good latch on. One of the misconceptions that a lot of mommies have is that the baby feeds from the nipple. The simple way that I like to explain is the nipple is the door of the milk. Baby needs to open the mouth big enough, like opening the mouth for a sandwich. And the baby has to attain the whole areola. So when the baby is latching, mother should not feel any kind of pinching pain or hear the baby clicking of the sound clicking. And I always teach mother to observe the moves of the sucks and swallow of the baby. And
That's right.
assessing the breastfeeding does not hurt. So when you practice the first latch properly, then everything else is smooth.
That's right. That's great. Yes. I think that's, again, what you're saying. I hope these new mamas that are listening take notes on these things, especially if you haven't had your baby yet, because it's easy to forget. But that clicking and that pain, I just remember thinking with my first one for weeks, it was so painful. And I thought, this is just what it is. Get tough, mama. But then I learned, oh, wow, there's a way to do this that's not painful. So we're going to talk, we'll get more into specifics. And again, if you have specific questions, I'm already seeing some come in. So great job. If you see me looking, I'm looking at the questions. But so keep those questions coming, mamas, and drop them in the Q&A so I can keep them separate from our chat. But we're going to talk specifics of breastfeeding. But let's talk right now about what the benefits are for breastfeeding, not only for our baby, but also for mama.
Well, the breast milk is the superfood for the baby. The first 3 days, the mommy has colostrum. Colostrum is a golden liquid that has all the antibodies that helps the baby to kick a good immune system. Colostrum also helps the baby with the move of the first stool that is called meconium. And then the traditional milk and mature milk has everything that the baby needs for the immunology, and is good for asthma, decreased risk of asthma, of GI problems. And amazing. For the mother, the benefits is amazing. Less risk of cancer and ovarian cancer, less risk of so many. Is a long list. Yeah. Another thing that I like to tell mommies is that with breastfeeding, you lose your baby fat. I think that's a big seller when it comes to breast milk.
That's right. I love what you said, liquid gold. I mean, it's liquid gold. And the colostrum, talk a little bit about that. I think initially I thought, I'm supposed to have so much milk the first day, and speak a little bit more to that of like how, how much is normal.
Yes, the first 3 days, the baby has the belly the size of a little cherry. So mommy has little colostrum for a little belly. And so the baby at the beginning, the first days, feed like all the time, every hour, every 2 hours. We call that feeding on demand. The more the mommy keeps the baby on the skin, the more the mother will make milk. Making milk is supply and demand. The more the baby sucks, the more the baby drinks, the more the hormones will make milk.
Amazing. It's amazing that our bodies are created this way. Yes. Awesome. So is it, I guess, so then the colostrum, it's normal to have a little bit of that, but just keep staying at it, right?
Yes, the first 3 days, I have seen, the colostrum is so potential that I have seen on babies drinking like 1 ml, 2 mLs. It helps with the sugar. It boosts the sugar at the beginning, which is energy for the baby. The second day, the mother is making like 5 mLs or 7 mLs. And the way that we know the baby is feeding well is by the diapers, the wet and stool diapers. Okay. So at the beginning is a little bit like challenging because mommy has to try to rest when the baby sleeps. But then if we say, mommy, you have to feed every hour, 2 hours, my God, but where does the mother sleep? So it is challenging. It is a way of showing baby and feeding. It is a challenge, but it's worth it.
That's great. That's great. I love that. How do we know? I get a question a lot is like, will I have enough milk for my baby? Like, how do I know? And you're talked about a little bit about the supply and demand. Can you talk a little about that and what to do if supply is low?
Yeah. For example, at the beginning, sometimes babies are sleepy. They don't want to wake up. And then at times babies can skip meals. It's not a good idea to let the baby skip meals. So what we do is I teach mommies how to remove the milk with a hand using hand expression. Sometimes at the beginning, talking about the first days of life, if the baby is sleepy, which I show mommies how to remove the milk with the hands and put it in the baby mouth so the baby can taste it and then the baby starts drinking. At times, to increase a little bit the milk supply, I always teach mommies to examine their breast, touch the breast before feeding, feel how is the breast, and then after you feed, also touch, so you can feel that little by little the skin is softer and you feel the baby's feeding.
That's good. That's great. What should we do if you have an oversupply? Some may struggle with like an undersupply, others with over.
Now, when mommies make over, let me start all over. If the baby latches well, is feeding on demand, mommy's home, then mommy does not need to, for example, pump. Oversupply happens when mother breastfeeds and also pumps a little bit more than what the baby is consuming. So then it becomes oversupply. Every mommy is unique, so what I do is I see the mothers and I find out what they're doing. I ask them to tell me their routine, and that's how I figure out how to help them and how to design a plan that either to reduce the milk or try to save some and make sure that the baby feeds.
It's great. That's great. And I would say, just a note to mamas, resist the urge to compare. It's so easy to, especially with social media, and to you scrolling and you see the mom who's putting away 100 ounces in the freezer, and you think, what's wrong with me?
Yes.
But to not compare in that way, if your baby is fed, your baby is thriving, then all is going well for you. And I think that's an encouragement, because it's easy to compare ourselves in every sort of way. But I love what you said, just that feeding on demand. And it's amazing how our bodies know what they need. So
especially, for example, when I always like to assess, mommy, what do you need? What are you going to do? Tell me, what are you going to do at home? How long are you going to be at home? Who's your support system? Who's helping? All those little details is so important, because you can put it together and then give a mother a specific plan for her needs. Some mommies, they're going to stay home for 6 months or more. So feeding on demand is something that they get used to it, that somebody that is going to go back to work, for example, in 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. It's just so amazing too, all the resources that are available, especially, seeing a lactation consultant while you're in the hospital, if at all possible. Go ahead and get that help and support before you get home and have all the questions, but knowing that they're always there if you do. Okay. Let's talk about how, when breastfeeding is painful, it can be painful. Can you talk a little bit about, like, what are the things that may be causing pain, and how can we even care for our breasts while we're breastfeeding and pumping?
Yes, when a mommy tells me I have pain when I breastfeed, then I first assess the latch. I try to observe the baby with the latch. I teach mommies to look at the nipple before breastfeeding, because the nipple, the same shape that went in has to come out. If the nipple comes out looking like a little lipstick, squash at the tip, then that means that the baby was grabbing just the tip and doing with the mouth like kissing moves instead of the rhythmic suck and swallow. So if the mother tells me that she feels pain in the areola, in the nipple area, then I know it is a latch. If the mother, for example, tells me that the pain is not on the areola, on the nipple, but is in the back, then I show her how to gentle massage the breast. I assess her breast to see if maybe there's little mammary glands that are a little bit full, so to ease that discomfort.
That's great. That is great. That's what about took me out of the game with my fourth one. As I said, this is, and there's no pain like that pain. It's so, your toes just want to curl. It's awful. So if that's happening, know that that's not normal. Don't think I got to be strong and push through this, or I can't do it. It's too hard. Then get help, because those are things that can be fixed. And that's exactly what was my issue, was the latching issue. So when I met with a lactation consultant and they walked me through, then we had great success. So I just share that for any mama who's out there going, why does this hurt so bad? Then maybe you can get some help. So be encouraged.
Yes, it shouldn't hurt.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it
One
breaks my
person,
heart. It breaks my heart when I do my rounds and says, "Oh my God, this is painful. Oh my God, it's not supposed to be painful. It's supposed to be joyful, bonding." So after assessing and correcting, it says, "Oh my God, it's not hurting."
yes. Oh, and there's such joy when you're like freedom.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, one question we received from our audience is, what strategy can you apply if you, let's see, it says, would you apply if you would like to breastfeed and express to not generate oversupply?
Okay. If your baby is latching good, if your baby is, you see the sucks and swallow, you see the baby not with the little moves like kissing right on the tip. If you know your baby is feeding well, you do not have to pump, you do not have to do hand expression. But in the other breast, for example, your baby is not feeding well, you are noticing that it's not emptying the breast, then is when you use the little hand expression. Or now there is a nice little gadget in the market, the haka. You can put the haka on the breast while you breastfeed in the other one. So if you don't want to do oversupply, or you don't want to do oversupply, it always assess the latch.
That's great.
Hand
That's
expression is like emergency, like a little dessert, like a little way of making sure your baby is emptying one breast, or because you feel a little mammary gland full.
great. Great. Thank you. Talk to us about, here's another question from our audience. This mama says, what can I do to keep my milk production going when I go back to work? I've noticed that my milk has gone down. Maybe this mama's starting back to
One
work.
of the big challenges that we see with mommies go back to work is that they decrease the frequency of either pumping or putting the baby in the breast. Of course, if the mother goes back to work, she's not going to put the baby on the breast. So what she needs to do is pick up the same pumping frequency at work, like if she was feeding. Now, for example, the things that I see here with the nurses, because we have a lactation room here with the girls who are no mommies, they pumping. Sometimes they are so busy on the floor that they don't have time to do that little routine. So when you start decreasing the frequencies, which is usually like if the milk is mature, you should be either pumping like 8 times a day, or breastfeeding a total with pumping like 8 times to 10 times a day.
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So try to stay on that rhythm.
That question.
Yeah. Okay. If that didn't answer you, mama, then you write us back and we'll keep going. But thank you. That's great. Just keep up with that schedule. Pretend you're feeding your baby every time it's time to go. Oh, I know that's so hard for so many working mamas too at times. Okay. Another one is about the latch. So how do you fix the latch if baby doesn't open the mouth properly or is kind of like a lazy latch? Any strategies?
Okay, that's a very good question. If the baby is at the breast and you feel the little pinching little pain, what you can do 2 things. Either you put your little finger at the corner of the lip of the baby and you let the baby release and start all over. The way that you start all over is you always baby tummy to mommy tummy. If you want to do the cradle position, you put the nose of the baby in the tip of your nipple. Baby smells you and opens big. When the baby opens big, you have to be fast like a sandwich all the way in, because the baby is faster than mommies. If the baby closes the mouth and stays at the tip, then you will feel the pain. But if you fast, so at the beginning is a little challenge. Now, if the baby is on the breast already and you just feel a little bit discomfort, what you can do is you can grab your breast in a C, like a C cup. You grab your breast from the back. You don't put your fingers in front of the areola, but all the way in the back. You hold the breast like a sandwich. and softly you push the tissue in while the baby is sucking. So because you're pushing softly the tissue, then the baby with the sucking gets a little bit more deep. And then pain.
It's the miracle trick, but it's harder. It can feel harder than it sounds getting it going.
It takes
So just keep practicing.
practice, but if you think about those little things, you'll do good, because
That's right.
breastfeeding should not hurt.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great tips. And I remember when I was coached in that, I was like, but I'm trying that. And I would like do all the things and then I would put the baby on, like, oh, put the baby on. And then when I had the lactation consultant helping me, she was a little more aggressive. She was like, and I thought, oh, okay. So don't be scared to be a little aggressive because like you said, those babies are fast. Yeah.
I know. Yes. I always say that when I says mommies, because when we watch TV, you see the perfect latch. I look at those films and I said, what? That's not the real world. But at the beginning with young mommies, for example, that is the first time mothers, I personally show them different positions, but the one that works the best for a new mommy is the football, because you teach the mommy. I have my little baby here.
Yes,
Teach
show
the
us.
mother to put, you put the baby like a football. So
Like
you
this.
put your fingers in the ears of the baby and you hold it like a football.
Great.
And then you grab your breast. Yes. Mommies who are experienced, for example, like you, that you have 4, probably when you breastfed your third, you just did a cradle, you put the baby and then baby fed.
Right. That's great. That football hold is great. That's a good tip. I hope you mamas who are listening, especially first time ones, are feeling encouraged and are learning new things. Keep those questions coming because that's what we're here for. We have the expert.
Those are
right
very good questions.
Great questions. All right, here's another one about pumping again. When you're pumping at work, how long should each pumping session be?
Okay. If you are pumping at work and you are already making mature milk, you will know when you pumping the strength that the milk comes in. Usually pumping, you shouldn't be pumping like for half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour. Sometimes when I hear that from the girls, I said, no, that's too much. You will overproduce. You pump, like I would say, between 15, 20 minutes. If after 20 minutes, you still see the milk shooting hard, then pump for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But don't go too much when you start feeling a little like pinching pain in the tip of the nipple, because the breast is like,
empty at that point, kind of.
In a way, yes.
Yeah, and then you're kind of, I guess, teaching yourself, like your breast and your body think, okay, baby's still eating, so keep making. Okay. That's a good tip. Awesome. Okay, here's a great question about storage. I know we're going to get to this, but let's talk about when you breastfeed regularly, how and when should you pump to put away for storage, like in the fridge or the freezer? I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe the question is if you're breastfeeding at home, but you're, on a regular schedule, but you want to put a little stash away. What's the best way to do that?
So at the end of this show, we have a good link that shows the temperature of the milk. But briefly, I'm going to explain you. If you pump fresh milk and you're going to use the milk for the next feed, the fresh milk in an air conditioning room, according to the CDC, can stay like 4 hours. After that, if you're not going to use that milk, but you're going to use it later at night, then you put it in the refrigerator. And then if you're not going to use that milk for the next 2 days, then you put it in the freezer.
Yeah, great.
So at the end, I place an attachment that shows the temperatures and how many hours in the counter, how many hours in the refrigerator. Awesome. But breast milk should be treated like the same way that we remove the milk from the freezer to cook. You don't put it on the counter. If you move it from the freezer, you put it in the refrigerator. You wait until it's ready, and then you give it to the baby after removing the coldness.
That's great. That's great. All right. What about, tell me about this. Maybe if a mom is breastfeeding regularly at home, she's home, she's on demand feeding her baby. But she wants to have a date night sometimes. So she wants to have a little stash set away for someone to give a bottle to the baby, whatnot. What's the best way to do that? If you wanted to just occasionally pump or put an extra session in to stash away, what is your recommendation for that?
Well, usually that happens, for example, a mommy makes a full supply of what the baby is going to feed, like in 4 to 6 weeks. So after that, you can start maybe getting a little extra or putting it aside in case the baby doesn't finish because you're going to go out for dinner for 2 or 3 hours, or give it for later. But if you plan like to make a little bit extra because you want to start stashing in the refrigerator, then you have to be careful about starting to oversupply. And
Right.
because I have a very smart audience, I want to remind you, and also you can check on the website, when you pump, mommies that have pump, you have noticed that when you start pumping, the first little milk that comes out is a little bit like more watery. And then after a few minutes, is like rich and thick. So the first milk is more like for thirst for the baby, is more watery, but the rich one, the one that makes the baby fat, is in the back. So sometimes I have seen babies that the mother, because is over pumping, she has been giving only the watery milk and stashing the mature milk. So
Yeah.
always look when you pump and mix it.
That's good. That's
After
good.
you put it away. Don't just fill one up and then put it on the side, feed one up. No, because the first milk is a little watery. So it's better like you have your setting of pump, you mix it so it can mix both milks.
That's great.
Does
That's
that
great.
help a little bit?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. There's so many ins and outs of it, and it's just great to be able to ask all our questions to you as an expert. So, yes, and we just received a question similar to what you kind of just spoke to, but if pumping and breastfeeding, how do you not cause your breast to oversupply? So I guess just, yeah, kind of you spoke to that, but
No, that's an excellent question. You see, because if you don't want to oversupply, but then you want to train the baby to feed. So what you do is during the day, you do the breastfeeding, but then during the night, if you want to give milk, you still have to pump. Don't skip. But then you give it to your husband or somebody else to try to give the bottle, because babies are very smart. They
they
will
are.
see like, mommy, what's going on here?
Hey, wait a minute. There's something
Yes,
different
wait a
here.
minute, what is happening? I like your touch. So if you are doing too much pumping, then you will start overproducing.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Here's another audience question. This mama says, my baby has been sleeping through the night since she was born. Wow, lucky you. But during the day, I'm not sure how old is your baby. So if you can hear me, tell us how old your baby is. That might be helpful. But during the day, she feeds every 3 hours, and last feed while sleeping is at 11 p.m., but does not wake again until 8 or 9. She continues to pump during the night as she's concerned the supply will go down. She tried not to pump, but felt the supply was going down. So do you have any advice? The baby's 3 months old. So yeah, little
Okay,
baby.
I was just going to say that. I said that
Yeah.
sounds like a 3 or 4 month baby.
Yeah.
Yes, a 3 and 4 month baby is already starting to try to do his own little schedule. Now, babies, even though they are 3 or 4 months, they should at least, because your milk supply is already in, they should be feeding at least 8 times in a day in the 24 hours. So if the baby starts feeding 6 times a day or 5 times a day, yes, your milk supply will go down. Now, one of the most important things is that I know you ladies, you take the baby to the pediatrician. So your pediatrician is going to be monitoring that by the growth and development, by the weight of the baby. But if you when you say to yourself, oh, I think my milk is going down. Yes, if it starts going down, it's because you are decreasing the frequencies.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks for sharing. Here's another one. How do you increase fat consumption for a breastfeeding mama? So this is for mamas. Mamas need to eat good and healthy as they're developing milk for their babies. So this mama says, how can we increase fat consumption for a breastfeeding mama who has eating restrictions because of baby allergies? So she's not eating eggs, milk, or citrus.
You mean the mother is not eating none of that?
The mother, yeah.
Yeah, the mother. Okay, sometimes and this is like general education, because every mommy is unique, every baby is unique. I do not know the specifics of your situation, but by me giving you general education, you can get that and then ask the question to your pediatrician. A lot of mommies think that if they drink more milk than normal, they'll make more milk. If a mother drinks more milk than what she used to before pregnancy, then you are consuming too much lactose. You will get gas, you will feel sick. So you stay with the normal for you before pregnancy. But what you need to do is you need to increase your diet like 500 calories a day, because mommies, when they breastfeed, they lose 500 calories. Now,
Amazing.
if you want to eat fat, for example, the best source is better protein, which is nuts, like walnuts, if you are not allergic, but you have to increase 500 of good calories.
Good calories,
like
yeah.
Greek yogurt with fruits, or lean chicken, not Burger King, not Dunkin' Donuts, because you don't want to consume too much fat. When I see young mommies that they are very slim, after the baby, they still look like 115, 120 pounds. I reinforce the teaching about eating a little more, because if you lose 500 calories a day and you used to live with 1,500 calories a day, you cannot live with 900 calories a day every day. Now, if somebody is larger, then it's different. The weight loss comes automatically. So to answer that question on your baby, I don't know what kind of allergies your baby has, but that's something that you need to be specific with your pediatrician.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so another mom is saying, if I would like to pump and breastfeed, when is it appropriate to start creating milk storage, and when is it appropriate to start introducing a bottle?
Okay, if you are exclusive breastfeeding, mommies will make the milk, the baby, full-blown milk, like from 4 to 6 weeks. The ideal is because the baby will be consuming everything. Then you can start, saving a little bit, for
from there on. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, but what about beginning, for example, at the beginning is not, I don't recommend mommies to start saving like at the 3rd week of the baby, because then the baby needs all that. The baby needs all that.
Yeah. Give everything to the baby.
3 weeks, yes.
That's great. So maybe about after, like you said, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes, exactly.
That's great. What about, when is a good time to introduce a bottle if you're planning to exclusively breastfeed?
Now, introducing a bottle to exclusive breastfeeding is a decision of the mommy. For example, the way that I will do it, for example, because babies are very smart. Oh my God, babies are very smart. I even seen like on TV, like if the father has to feed the baby a bottle, he makes a hole in the t-shirt with a hole, and then he puts a face of the mother here to try to trick the baby. And I know you have seen that.
Yeah.
So what you do is, if you, during the day, because you are there, you have to skip like a feeding, like a breastfeed now, and then in 2 or 3 hours, then give one bottle and see how the baby reacts, because all babies are unique. So you can practice that like during the day that you were awake.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's good. Good advice. Here's another one. I think you spoke to this, but just reinforce it for us. In terms of storing the milk, if a mama is pumping at work and then she keeps it in the fridge at work for, say, 8 or 10 hours, is that safe when she gets home? She can go ahead and freeze it? Or
Well,
does she need to use it within 2
yes,
days?
because it's a refrigerator.
Yeah.
But most of the jobs, they have the refrigerator with a freezer, and most of
Okay.
the employees, they don't use the freezer. So
True.
if you pump and you're not going to use the milk like the next 2 days, then put it in label, put the time, and put it in the freezer at
That's
your job.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. You get the whole freezer at work.
The whole freezer, take it, because probably nothing is in the freezer, so it will be for your convenience. So
That's
I
great.
do that. I tell that to the girls. I said, don't put it in the refrigerator. Put it
Yeah,
in the
that's good.
freezer, because when you go home, you're going to put it in your freezer.
Great.
Unless you're going to use that milk the day or the following day,
Okay.
then you can put it in the refrigerator.
That's great. That's great. Just a huge round of applause too for mamas who are pumping and working and doing it all. Motherhood is
It's
hard
hard.
for
It's
everybody, and
hard.
that's a challenge. So
Yes,
just
yes.
bravo that you're doing that for
Sometimes
your
when
for
that
your babies.
happens, there is the little risk of getting too full. They get a little engorged because they skip a pumping and the breasts are talking to you and
Yeah,
leaking, and then you cannot run to the room to pump. So it is a big challenge. I admire those
yeah,
moms. It's a big
agree.
sacrifice.
Agree. Yeah, it really is. All right, let's talk about what are complications that can happen during breastfeeding, like clogged ducts or mastitis, like latching issues, things like that. And when should we consult a doctor?
Okay, usually one of the things that I love to do is I always teach mommy to examine your breast before feed and post feed.
Mhm.
After the meal comes in, I always teach mommies to give massage to the breast. I have a little breast here. And the way that you do is before breastfeeding, you do circles around, like if you massaging your breast. When you touch your breast, you can start feeling like little bumps. If you see a little
Mhm.
bump, gentle, give a little massage, moving forward, and then either you put the baby on the breast, or if you are pumping, you pump. Little complications happen is if you start feeling little bumps that they are not moving, that
Mm.
no matter how much you gently massage, is not moving and start hurting. So the
Yeah.
best way of clear that is usually the baby is a good fixer. If not,
Mhm. Yeah.
if you are doing the pumping, you use warm compresses to open the gate of the milk, and after you finish, you touch your breast and you put a little ice to give comfort.
That's good.
Now, if the mommy going to extreme, like you said, for example, mastitis. A lot of
Mhm.
mommies think that when you are a little bit engorged, you have mastitis. The way that I like to teach mommies to see if they have mastitis is I ask them to go to the mirror without clothes, lift your arms and look at your breast.
Mm.
If your breast has an area that is very red, hot,
Mm.
and you
Mm.
had fever for a couple of days and you
Mm.
tired, and call the doctor,
Yeah.
because an area that is red and shiny, and then all the other breast is fine, it looks
That's fine. Yeah.
very specific, and when you touch is warm, then call the doctor, and then
Yeah.
follow up with that.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, and I know it changes kind of over time as the baby grows as well, but how often we should be breastfeeding and how long those sessions are. So maybe kind of walk us through, like, when you're first breastfeeding your baby at the very beginning, this is kind of how long your sessions are, and maybe this is how long they are. I know everybody can be unique, but is there kind of a range there?
Right. So at the beginning, like I was saying, colostrum is very little. The belly of the baby is like a little cherry. So if baby is latched well, mommy has no pain. Sometimes those little feeding sessions can be 10, 15 minutes. If the mother is able to see the suck and swallow, the baby comes off of the breast, you burp the baby, you put it on the other one, and it will go like that. When your milk starts coming in, then the belly of the baby is a little bit bigger. If the baby sucks well, I don't like to give times, but an approximation is 15, 20 minutes. When I do my rounds and a mommy says, oh my God, my baby has been on the breast 1 hour. Is no way that the baby was in an hour. Then the baby is just chewing, just using you as comfort.
Yeah, yeah.
Because mommy's are tired, you relax, but then what baby's doing is just comforting. So at the beginning, to train the baby well, you always look at the baby, look at the jaw, listen, and you will listen. You will be able to listen the suck and swallow, suck and swallow, suck and swallow.
Yeah, that's good. How do we know if the baby's getting enough? I feel like that's always kind of the thought of like, how do I know my baby's eating enough?
So at the beginning also, as no more babies, the way that we know the baby is enough is after each feed or when he finished both breasts, he goes to sleep. You see the lips moist. They give you the little drunk, relax look. Sometimes when the baby if almost finishing the second breast, you start seeing the baby's fists more relaxed. They let go. They are feeding. If the baby is like with a tight fist all the time on the breast and sucking, so assess the latch and listen for the sucks and swallow. Observe the baby jaw. Observe that the lips are like a little duck, and you will know the baby feed. And the big teller is the diapers. The wet diapers and the poops. So also when you see the diaper, always look. Open the diaper, look at the color of the poop, look at the color of the urine. Babies are like us. If I don't drink water all day, my urine is going to be very yellow. So the same thing with the babies. The way that you know your baby is feeding is when you assess the wet diaper. Oh, it's nice and clear, it's heavy, and it's poop there.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh, I'm not breastfeeding now, but mamas who have breastfed, I don't know. When I hear you talk about those little milk trunk, I think, oh, you have so many endearing thoughts and warm thoughts about getting to breastfeed your baby. It's a sweet, special gift. So love to hear you talk about that. Okay, one question we got from our audience is, what is a safe way to stop breastfeeding? Like you're ready to transition, maybe in wean, but without getting mastitis? Because if you just kind of cut cold turkey, are you at risk of mastitis? Talk to us about that.
Yes, cutting cold turkey, no, it's not a good idea. The way that you can do is going to take a few weeks. And the way that you do is you're going to, for example, during the day, you breastfeed. The next feed, you're going to either give the bottle, and then and always observe the baby. Watch his behavior. Talk to your baby. Your baby might not understand what you're saying, but the baby hears your tone of voice, and then little by little you can start decreasing and kind of weaning off when you want to.
Yeah, that's good. So take it slow. Yeah,
yes,
that's great.
It's slow. It's not a cold turkey. Babies are very smart. They'll feel miserable. They'll think that something is wrong, and then they'll feel mommy's stance. Because when we are nervous, our body tight, and the baby can feel that. It is. They are little people. They're smart little
amazing.
People.
They are smart little people. I love that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about pumping again. Choosing a breast pump, like what should mamas look for when there's 100 million of them, it feels like, on the market? Well, what should you look for, and how do you know which size is right, and this and that?
I don't represent any company, but believe me, I have seen amazing pumps that now are coming in the market. The other day I saw a resident that what I know she was breastfeeding, and she came back to work, and then suddenly I see her really nice and plump. And I said, oh my God, your milk came in. And then she says, Lupi, guess what? I'm wearing the cordless. She was wearing a pump that looks like a breast, didn't have a sound. So by me telling you that is you have to see what you need. If you're going to be at home, for example, you can, there is the pumps that have the tubes, the little machine that you can put it like a cross bag. If you're going to go to work, invest in a better pump. I always ask the girls to check with the medical insurance. Now these
That's
days,
right.
because breastfeeding and the breast milk is good for the baby, it is amazing. There is a lot of medical insurance that they are giving pumps. And when the mother calls, they just say, mother, tell me what you want. This is how much you allow. So there is a big market out there.
That's right. That's
Single
right.
pumps, double pumps.
Amazing. No, that's great. That's great. And then what about choosing like all the right flange size and all that? Do you have any
Now,
tips?
that's a very, very good question. As a matter of fact, I have here 2 flanges.
Awesome.
Usually, I don't know if you can see the diameter. I don't know, maybe like that.
Yeah, hold it up a little more. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But this is a little larger.
Yep.
This is the standard. Usually most of the pumps, they come with standard size. Now, the way that you are using the right one is, you see this little hole here?
Yeah.
The nipple should not be rubbing against the tunnel. The nipple, when going in, should be going in freely.
Okay.
If the nipple rubs, is too tight.
Okay.
And
I've never been told that. This is a good tip.
And in another way, if you're using a large and your nipple is being dragged with the areola, is also too big for you.
Okay.
So one way of putting the flange on your breast is, don't just top it up. You have to kind of bring the breast in, like if you were putting on the baby like a sandwich, and place it inside in the center. So when you start pumping, the machine doesn't do any kind of extra pull of the skin.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Sometimes I see mommies put that like superficial, and you see all this air. So when you turn the machine sucks the whole thing, and that causes pain.
Pain, yeah. Good tip. Ladies, isn't this been so informative? I'm really encouraged. I hope you new mamas out there, or even just, second, third, fourth time breastfeeding mamas, are learning new things. Another audience question says, I have a 3-week-old baby. How can I increase breast milk supply, and do oatmeal cookies help for lactation?
Okay.
Yum. I wish.
That's another beautiful question. And we are in Miami. This is a cultural city, but it is amazing. But every culture has different foods that help. But if you collect data, everybody talks about oatmeal. Yes, oatmeal helps. Oatmeal cookies, good diet. And another thing that I hear from mothers that is working for them, and it has become very popular, is mother's milk tea. They have in Walgreens, CVS, and you can take that breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Great. That's great. Can you talk also about just the importance of staying hydrated when you're breastfeeding?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, that's very important too. Sometimes when I go to the rooms, I see the mother's lips are dry and she's licking because she's so busy. No, always self-care. Before feeding the baby, before starting, you take care of mommy first. go empty your bladder, drink a nice little tea, take a little snack, because if you notice when you are breastfeeding and the baby is busy on the breast, has a little sign that says do not disturb, your stomach is asking you for food, your lips are asking you for water.
Yeah.
If you eat or you have water at the bedside or at the table, it's very important to keep hydrated. I'm not breastfeeding and look, I have water.
That's right. I'm like, keep one of those big cups that everybody has
Yes,
now, just
yes.
full of water right beside you.
Water is the best. Don't consume too much sugary drinks or Coke or Pepsi. No, because that
Yeah.
gives you more thirst.
That's great. On that note, and I'm watching our time. We've got about 5 minutes left. So, ladies, if you have any questions,
Wow.
drop those in our Q&A. I know we could go for hours. There's so much
Yes,
here, and it's such good
definitely.
information. While you're talking about eating and drinking, what about foods or beverages that we should avoid while breastfeeding, like
Yeah,
alcohol, caffeine, that kind of thing?
yeah. Now, everything that you consume goes out to the milk of the baby. So what you have to do is you have to be careful of what upsets you. If you're the person who likes to eat with a lot of hot sauce, then slow down on the hot sauce. If you like to put a lot of garlic in the food, go slow on the garlic. I personally have read a lot of evidence-based practice articles about sushi. I know that a
Interesting.
lot of my friends love sushi, but sushi is raw fish.
Yeah.
Now these days, we don't trust anything that is raw. So be
Yeah.
careful where you eat, and because I know that raw fish has mercury. But
Yeah.
besides that, you don't consume what upsets you. Now, when it comes to coffee, for example, if you like espresso very, very, very with a lot of
Like
caffeine,
strong. Yeah.
then have a little bit after you breastfeed.
That's good.
That way
That's
it
good.
doesn't go to your baby.
That's great. Good word. Yeah. So you don't have to completely give up your caffeine, mamas. Just be
Yes, of
strategic.
course
And
not,
when you,
especially those nice coffees from Starbucks. My
that's
God.
right. Gotta
So
have something to
self-care is
like keep us
important.
awake.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Okay. What about, let's see, one mama's asking, she says she's kind of specific. So you tell me if you can speak to it or not. But this mama has developed a lump on the areola that fills under the skin. It improves a little in size after pumping or feeding, but it's not gone away. What could this be? She wonders.
Okay, how old is your baby?
How old's your baby? Tell us.
Yes. Is
Let's
it
see.
still a newborn?
3
Wait.
months. 3 months.
Oh, 3 months. Okay, so you already making full milk. Okay, so maybe what it can alleviate a little bit is before you said you pumping. She said pumping, right?
She says, yeah, because it improves after she pumps or feeds. So yeah.
Okay, so what you do is before doing anything, always like I was teaching you about a little massage around, then do that before around the areola, little circles. Another way you do is you take your nipples and you go back and forth. This is called reverse pressure, pushing back the areola softly. Do a little hand expression before pumping, and then after your pump, then don't check your settings. Don't go too high.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, sometimes that can cause like a little tissue damage. So double check your settings. Make sure it's not high, because if you said that you feel it at the end of pumping, so that maybe can be like a little swollen tissue from all the pulling. So,
Yeah.
so go slow on the settings. Try that. Let's see if that works.
Great tips, Luby. Great tips. Okay, you spoke to this earlier, and I think you said it kind of depends on the mom, but one mom is asking, at what week can my baby start using a bottle?
What age?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a mommy's decision. The American Pediatrics, so the Academy of American Pediatrics recommends at least 6 months exclusive breastfeeding. But like I repeat, babies are very smart. If you are breastfeeding good, the baby's latching good, you enjoying the time. If you introduce the bottle, then the baby will get confused. So if that's the situation that you want to do it because you know your situation, you are unique, then wait until you make your full supply, because the baby is the best person to make the milk, especially if he's latching good and is no need.
That's great. Okay, we're running out of time, but I've got to ask you 3 quick more questions. So I'm going to do it quickly. But when is it appropriate to supplement with formula?
Okay, now that's a very a question that I always they always ask me, and I repeat: if your baby is feeding good, if your baby is growing great, if your pediatrician says to you, "Mommy, the baby is doing awesome according to growth and development," you don't need it.
Yeah.
So listen to your pediatrician. Listen and you search why you want to do it, because if you're doing a good supply and then you introduce formula, then what are you going to do with your supply? So it is like a question to do another show.
Yeah, great. Let's do another show. This has been so good. Okay, quickly, what do we want to do if we want to introduce solids but continue to breastfeed? What's kind of the way to do that?
Yes. Now, when a baby is ready for solids, which is like at 6 months, then the breastfeeding, the milk does not become like the main food. It becomes like a supplement, because the baby starts, so the baby will continue to breastfeed and you can continue giving the solids. I have seen mothers breastfeed until the baby is 2 years old, and it's like a little dessert, a little comfort drink for them.
Yeah, great. All right. Finally, Loopy, tell everyone, where can mothers find breastfeeding support, additional information? You know, even with something like this, we can still have questions. And in that middle of the night when we're really struggling, we can still have questions. So where can mothers find support?
Yeah, at the end of this show, we put a few websites that are very, very good. If you go to the website, the Academy of Pediatricians, they have a website that is specific for parents, and you click the age of the baby and it tells you everything about breastfeeding, nutrition, development, behavior, and you can follow that. Always follow websites that are good teaching. Like the Center of Disease and Control of Prevention. That's also a very good website. At the end of this webinar, you'll have a list.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, I'm going to have our team put up the slide now that you're talking about that has all of those resources. And I just want to give a huge, I feel like if we could do a standing ovation for you, Loopy, I'm going to stand up. We would, I know our audience would. We've been getting comments the whole episode just saying, wow, this has been so great, very informative. So,
It has been
Loopy,
a
thank
pleasure.
you.
It is a pleasure. Remember, mommy, self-care.
Yeah,
You
that's great.
self-care, and then you're able to take care of the rest.
That's right. That's right. Loopy, thank you. Thank you to everyone who listened in. I want you to go ahead and mark your calendars and tell your friends, because on Thursday, September 21st, it's going to be our next episode. We are third Thursday of the month. So September 21st, we are going to be talking about autism and neurodiversity. So no two minds are exactly alike. And neurodiversity is just the term used to describe the range of ways in which individuals perceive and respond to the world. So everything from autism to ADHD to learning disorders. Tune in and learn the conditions and diagnosis that are fall under the term neurodiversity. And then what about the signs that a child may be neurodivergent? And most importantly, how families and caregivers can better support our neurodivergent kids and, you know, our typically developing children too. How can we help them with their friends who may be neurodivergent? So this is going to be a great episode on September 21st. And again, the recordings of all our parental guidance episodes can be found at parentalguidance.org. There's also resources and downloadable tips. So we will have this one on there. Give us a little bit, give us about a week just to get it all uploaded, but it will be there and you can forward it to a friend. And we're just so excited that you joined us tonight. And I hope you all had as much fun as I did And we just learned so much. So thank you again, Loopy, and thank you again to
Thank
UHealth
you.
Jackson
Thank
Children's
you.
Care.
Take care. It was a
Yes.
pleasure.